Dwayne Trainer, if he'll come and introduce our speaker for the evening.
Hello, St. Peter's. It's so nice to see you all on a school night. So welcome, food and good talk and an amazing guest. So it is my great privilege and honor to introduce someone that I think has become a really good friend, Marie-Hélène Bernard. And in the booklet you will see, or the little handout, there's a very brief bio, but if you go to the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra site, there's a full bio, and every time I read it, something pops out at me, like, I had no idea you were attorney. So I learn something new every time. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Marie-Hélène almost as long as she's been here in town through being a member of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra Chorus. So she is such a huge fan of the chorus and has so much choral experience through your time in Boston with Handel and Haydn Society. So just I'll read the brief bio just so you can know the greatness that is in the room. So she is the president and CEO. She was appointed in 2015 and moved here to St. Louis. Under her leadership, the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra has sharpened its commitment to artistic excellence. I can attest to that. Educational impact, community connections, and access to music. She is a native of Quebec, of Belgian descent, and she studied at the University of Montreal and holds a master's degree in arts management from Concordia University in Montreal. Prior to her appointment at the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, she served as the executive director and CEO of Handel and Haydn Society in Boston, and had other leadership positions in orchestras including Philadelphia Orchestra, the Cleveland Orchestra, New York Phil, Minnesota Orchestra, and Canton. I wonder if we were in Canton at the same time. We'll have to talk and see. 2005. No, I was there earlier. I'm older. But I want to share a fun story. We were just laughing about this right before dinner started. So I had the honor, yesterday was Marie-Hélène's third wedding anniversary, and I had the honor of singing at her wedding with 5 other guys, which was in the midst of COVID. It was the first time I and the other 5 guys had sung since February. It was in October. And it was such a meaningful experience. You know, she had family in Canada that couldn't come, so there were people running around with their iPads and their phones recording so people back home could see it. It was just such a beautiful, heartwarming experience, although it was very chilly and misty. And we haven't had any of that weather like that yet here this year, but it was a beautiful day and felt very special to be included in her special day. So without further ado, and jabber from me, Marie-Hélène Bernard.
Thank you, Dwayne. Such a pleasure to be here this evening. So yes, how is this? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No.
Be right up on that.
It might be easier like this. I might walk around anyway. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me, and glad to be here. The dinner was fantastic. So I don't know who cooked. Wow. I'm a cook, but this was pretty exceptional. Really happy to be here. So this evening, I know you have an interest in, where culture meets spiritual. So I will kind of integrate in a bit of my presentation some reflection on how music unites us all. And Dwayne, thank you for reminding me that 3 years ago, I had 6 men sing at our wedding, and I did not have players from the orchestra. Everybody was shocked. And for me, singing is truly divine, and I grew up in a household where singing and organ music and church music were really prominent. So I went back to my first love, and I'm so sorry it rained that day. Poor guys were standing on a balcony. I had this very romantic vision of 6 men singing from the balcony, and it was raining. But hey, I'm still married 3 years later, so it was probably a good blessing. So as we start, I will say a few things about my background, but first I want to show of hand, get to know you a little bit. So have you attended a concert of the St. Louis Symphony in the last 5 years? Oh, that's pretty good. did you come to the symphony if you were raised in St. Louis as a child? It's pretty good. That's very good, actually. It's a good showing. Any of you planning to come this season or have come so far? Very good. So on your table, you have the brochure for the season. My favorite thing is the last page of the brochure. It's a calendar, and I put it on my fridge. And every week I cut the program that just happened. But that calendar for me is gold because you see the whole season by dates. Do go on their website because sometimes we add concerts that are not that were not programmed by the time the brochure was printed. But we look forward to welcoming you. Tonight I will talk a little bit about the Powell Hall renovation. So what's unique this year about our season is we're not at Powell Hall. We are at Soulful downtown in Two Hill. And we're splitting the series. If you probably all live pretty close to here, but we also we're going to be performing in St. Charles, Lindenwood, at the Sheldon, so all over the region. So hope that you'll follow us this year. So I will tell you a little bit about where I come from, and that will connect us to our topic this evening of the symphony and how we all connect through music. As Dwayne said, I was born in Montreal. My father's Belgian, comes from a very, very poor family who immigrated to Canada after the war. My dad was born in 1938 and has vivid memories of the Second World War and Germans coming to town and taking everything that was in their house, including horses and so on and so forth. Catholic family, moved to Quebec and met my mother in the 50s. My mother was born there and she was in nursing school. He was studying to become a veterinarian, and they met at the time where they were very, very young. And by the late 60s, they had been married barely 10 years and had 5 children. So a good Catholic family. That said, my mother's brother is Bernard Lagacé, very famous organist. Bernard is now 92 years old. My mother passed away a few years ago. And Bernard revived the early music in North America and trained a whole generation of American and Canadian and European organists from the late 50s through he was probably active till the early 90s. So I grew up in a family where music was very important, early music. Spent a lot of my childhood in churches, listening to organ music, and loved the instrument. My mother was a harpsichordist, was a pianist, so I grew up in this very rich musical environment and also very intellectually stimulating. The reason I tell you this is fast forward, I'm in my 50s now. Decades later, as I do this work, it has become clear to me over the years, and it's something I may have denied maybe a decade or so ago when I was in Boston, is how the spirituality of music and how it does very mysterious things, and how orchestras like the St. Louis Symphony are truly social agents and are deeply impacting lives of communities. And I will go back to this. So tonight what I'm going to do is talk to you about the mission of the St. Louis Symphony, our values and beliefs, how spirituality connects to what we do, and also touching on the Powell Hall project, which is a big project that will give us a new music center where we can all connect. Yesterday I had a conversation with our music director, Stéphane Denève. You know who he is? Yeah. You can see the hair. He actually lives not far from here, so if you see him, you know, my husband has a very small sports car, and when Stéphane sits in it, we have to open because the whole body, the whole man can't. So we open, and then he has the hair, and he sticks, you know. So it's very, very funny. So this is the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, turn of the century. You'll notice something. What do you notice? Look at the harpist. Right there. She's the only one. So for decades, centuries, women were in the orchestra mostly through the harp, the position of the harp. Here's the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra today. This is a little old, 2019. We have probably 60 women to about 30-some men. Those poor men. We hired a new violinist, a man, in the orchestra, and he's the 4th man in the section. So you know David Halen, our concertmaster. Nikolai, Sean, and this gentleman. His name is Nathan, so he's the fourth man in the violin section. So prominently female. It's an orchestra that is considered probably one of the finest in the U.S., second oldest in the country, established in 1880 by Germans and Dutch. So those of you who have ancestors, you know that after New York, this was the most prominent orchestra in the U.S. in the 19th century. Here in St. Louis, when we were probably the fourth largest port in the U.S. So today we bring the finest musicians around the world, really. I would say probably 90% of our orchestra was born in the U.S., but they come from all corners of town, of the country. Up to about a few years ago, we had 7 players in the orchestra who were born and raised in St. Louis, who had been trained in the Youth Symphony. So that's pretty remarkable. We're one of the very few orchestras in the country that has, of course, a full orchestra, a youth orchestra, and 2 choruses. The symphony chorus, where Dwayne is singing with us in the symphony chorus, and the in unison chorus, which was formed in 1994. And it was a chorus that was formed from our relationship with Black churches in the region. So 100 now, probably 100 voices that come from a network of Black churches from all types. Some come from more affluent neighborhoods, others less so. And as part of the In Unison program, we have all kinds of training programs for young people at UMSL, in the church, and also out in the community. So I told you about the establishment, the budget size, and so on and so forth. So over the course of a year, we probably do about 300 concerts and events. We serve about 200,000 people in live performances here in the region. Last year alone, and I'll show you this on another slide, we served 326,000 students last year alone, and 1,500 teachers. So a few years ago, our team of educators, they are early education specialists. They are all former music teachers. They were unable to bring music in every single school, and they said something's not working, and someone had a great idea. She was a former music teacher. And instead of going to the school directly or to the principal, budgets are cut, cannot do music in a school, she started a network of teachers, and she started enlisting teachers, because the teachers are in the classroom with the students. They know exactly what their kids need. So as a result, fast forward 6-7 years later, we work with 1,500 teachers. We train them. We package programs for them. We give it to them for free. And they turn around and they teach in a classroom or online. I mean, during COVID, of course, the online teaching was pretty prominent. So this is a component of what we do. I'm going to show you this. It's a little small, so I'm not sure you're going to see it. But when we think about how we connect, we believe that music is a universal language. And when you are together in an experience listening to music, this is the one time and place where it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, what your religion are, you're connecting through music, and that's the universal language. And we see this in so many things we do. For example, with In Unison Chorus, obviously we go to churches, they come to us, but we are music therapy specialists, so we bring music to hospitals, cancer patients, to adults and children with disabilities. We help patients who are suffering from Parkinson and Alzheimer, and we're seeing the mysterious ways music heals people, their spirits and their physical being. We bring people together through a variety of musical experiences. And the one thing Stéphane was telling me recently is the mysterious ways that music brings us together in moments that he said, I don't control this. I cannot predict how it's going to be, but there are moments, and musicians will tell you this, we're on stage playing and something really unique and magical happens. So there's a vast array of things that we do, that we offer. And the one thing we discovered during the pandemic is the only thing that mattered, while we were trying to figure out how, is connecting to people. And we realized how deeply meaningful the ritual of coming to a concert and connecting to a community in music, how that ritual, how important it was to the community. And then we suddenly realized, wait, we do play a very important role in connecting through music people for a variety of reasons who are finding friendship, peace, comfort in the ritual of coming and hear the live music experience. So I will ask you, when you think of your own experience with music, have you gone to hear music to heal, to feel better about yourself? Have you found times where you're not in the mood and suddenly music turns your whole being around, right? Or sometimes when music channels a sadness or an emotion, it can be joy. It doesn't have to be sad all the time. But it is very true how we see how, with children, we see it. We are teaching children from age 2 and 3. They come in diapers and run around. They have their first concert on stage at Powell Hall, and it's extraordinarily powerful how music kind of brings them together to focus and also have their first exposure to just sound and textures in music. It's very important. So with this, here. So mission has been enriching lives through the power of music for quite some time, and every year we redo the exercise of really asking, is this the best way to describe what we do? Long-standing commitment to community and education, pride in symphonic music identity. As culture shift and change, we have made a commitment to say this is a unique art form. There is nothing like it. So I always remind our board, we're not the Muni, we're not the Fox, we're not the Botanical Garden, we're the Symphony. And it's unique, there's nothing like it. So how can we celebrate and stretch the muscle of symphonic music so that people can hear a different facet of the art form? The film series we started now 15 years ago is now very popular, and today I went to the dentist. Loopy cleaned my teeth, and she was very proud of me. And then the dentist came, and he's a young dentist, and he said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I work at the Symphony." "Are you a musician?" I said, "No." "What do you do?" "I'm the president and CEO." And then he started telling me about the film series. And he has a 5-year-old, and he's brought the 5-year-old to a film, and he and his wife are coming. And he said for him it was a fascinating experience that since he's come to the Symphony to hear the orchestra live play the soundtrack of a film, that he's never watching a movie with the same eyes. He said, now my ears are actively watching the movie. So I got a new client today. He's gonna come to hear Home Alone in December, and we're doing Encanto in March, and apparently it's a very, very popular film for kids. So you can look on the calendar. Committed to making music accessible to all and creating a sense of belonging, something really, really important that we have truly shaped over the years so that no matter how much you know about the music, that knowledge is not a condition to enjoying the music. And we keep repeating it. The number of people who say, well, I don't know much about music. I don't know if I'm going to like it. It doesn't matter. You need to let your heart speak. So we have really moved the symphony experience from the head to the heart and continuing to encourage people to enjoy it. For what it speaks to them is the most important. If you think the horn sounds weird, they probably sound weird. If you think, there's something that's not together, it's probably, if you think it's beautiful, it is probably very beautiful. So orchestras for a long, long time have intellectualized the experience of music to such a way that we have sometimes kept people at bay because they have not felt welcome. So we're working really hard to go back to core repertoire, to present new music, and make people feel that they are welcome. So during COVID, and this came out from this realization, and you'll say, well, that's pretty obvious, but for our team, it was a revelation during COVID that, of course, we're a performer, performing live, online, so on and so forth, creator. We are a leading orchestra and commissioning new music, so we're creating music of today. And Stefan is very dedicated to this. But if you go way, way back to the Leonard Slatkin era, those of you maybe were, yeah. He lives now here, so I'm the only CEO on the planet who has 2 music directors living in the same town at the same time. And I will say to you, I feel very privileged that oftentimes Leonard and Stefan get along very well, and they go out together to restaurants, and they exchange a lot. And it's wonderful to see that arc of connection through music and generation. Leonard will turn 80 next year, and Stefan is, I think, 51, close to being 52. And for me, it's a wonderful experience to see that sharing of knowledge and passion, and at the essence of music, where it doesn't matter as human beings how you feel about the music now, it's probably how you felt in the 70s and the 80s, that time becomes irrelevant. And that's also the mystery of this. So Creator, we commission a lot of new music, and in a way that we make it accessible. Did any one of you hear Kevin Putt's Concerto for Orchestra last year? I think it was in January of 23. Did you hear? Maybe. It's a beautiful work for the St. Louis Symphony, which we're going to do again when we come back to Hall. Connector, that music is a universal language, that the experience of music is truly unique. And the connecting part has been a driver during COVID, where we realized that people found their connection and community through the St. Louis Symphony, through music. So my team, very young team, very impressive, came up with these values and beliefs in the last year because with COVID and with all the changes, they said we need to rally around what it is that we believe that will drive everything we do. And they came up with this, which I thought was very inspiring. Music transforms life. We behave with passion, care, and creativity. We engage communities through music and educational experiences. And we'll succeed by attracting and nurturing the best talent, providing a stellar audience experience, listening, adapting, responding to the needs of community, and being welcoming to all. In 2010, we served 25,000 households. In 2023, I'm going to have you guess how many households we serve in the region. 30,000? Okay. 50? Oh, just try. We'll see. 300,000. Oh, yeah, that's a little much. But active households in the region of St. Louis right now is 100,000 households. The difference between today and, let's say, 1985 is in 1985 we had fewer households. They came almost every weekend. Today we have 100,000, and they come once, 2, 3 times a year. And when you ask people, how often do you come? They say, well, I come all the time. I said, so tell me, well, we come twice, 3 times, which is a lot for them because we lead busy lives. I'm sure you feel this way. So it's like, how do you make sure people come back and come often? So there's a variety of things we offer that enable that. Community programs and education programs, I'm just going to touch on this very, very briefly, and I mentioned this. Music therapy, we work with prisoners, we work with religious institutions, senior centers, we work with armed forces. We have a deep partnership with Fort Leonard Wood and Scott Air Force Base. They have extraordinary musicians within their ranks and singers as well. We work with the International Institute, we work with colleges, we work with synagogues. We have a Friday Shabbat series, and we started a partnership with the Holocaust Museum. So if you think of any social agency in town or any agency that brings communities together, we probably have a partnership with them. When I look at United Way, they serve 183 social agencies. 20% of them receive direct services from the St. Louis Symphony at no cost. So when we think about a community and a place of spirituality and this place of what music means to us, is we touch lives at every levels, and we make sure to subsidize these programs. So 2/3 of our budget is covered through philanthropy because we don't charge for all of these programs. Education, we talked about this, and I can direct you online. There's detailed reports of how many students we serve, teachers. We have a youth orchestra. We're one of the very few leading American orchestras that has a youth orchestra embedded into our institution, and it's a lot of people we serve. The vision is in, let's say, 10 years from now that we can look back and say every single child raised in St. Louis region has access to sequential music education. Not just one visit to a concert in grade 2 or grade 6. Sequential music education is from kindergarten to college, that every single step of the way, music is integrated into their curriculum. So ask me in 10 years. I'll probably be retired, but let's hope we can make that happen. So I'm going to get to Power Hall, and I'm going to watch the time. And you can ask questions, and at the end, I'll give you some time to ask some questions. So a few years ago, the board really did a lot of deep strategic work around where are we going, and the Power Hall became as an urgency because the building is approaching 100 years old. It was built in 1925. Excellent architecture, very good engineering, very good building. They build buildings very well in the early in the century. I don't know if any one of you is in the construction business or architecture, but they are very solid constructions. But the building shows its age. And those of you who had tickets to Home Alone in December last year, we had to cancel the concert because the boilers gave up. They could not heat the hall, and it was 59 degrees on stage. And by contract with the orchestra, I'm not allowed to have them play if the room temperature is under, I think it's like 67 degrees. There's guidelines for climate. Anyway, so in looking at the future and what we needed, we knew we had to renovate Power Hall. So they set the direction to success in 25, including revitalize Power Hall so that it could be more accessible, more comfortable, adjusting to the realities of all audiences we serve, so making it ADA compliant, but also making it accessible for families and large groups and small groups, but also adjusting the space that was lacking, and I'll show you. Advancing our music, serving a larger audiences, and of course ensuring that the institutional capacity culture is very strong, because the health of an organization starts with its people and its artists, and if the foundation is not strong, we cannot serve community. So this is Power Hall, and probably those of you who like cars, that's probably late 20s, 1929. If you look at this building, Power Hall has not changed. This is the exact same building. The only difference is there's some houses around that no longer exist, but overall this is the same building. It was called the St. Louis Theater. The last movie, it was built as a movie theater. The last movie shown here was The Sound of Music in 1963. The orchestra home was from 1934 until 1967 was a Stiefel Kiel Theater. I have board members who remember getting on a bus on Market and going to Kiel after school and going to hear the symphony for concerts. The space was inadequate, so when Power Hall was purchased by the board and transformed into a concert hall. So when we decided to renovate Power Hall, we realized the importance of the building. It's a historical landmark, it's protected, but also it sits in the middle of our region, from Arch to Park, north to south, and giving our presence in North County. And on the Del Mar Divide, we wanted to make sure we were creating a focal point to really transform the way we enjoy music and create a music center that would include all the disciplines and would bring people to enjoy music. And because over the years, what has changed from the music experience is the before, the during, and the after, is you need a space that is conducive to the experience of music. And I'll show you why we're doing this. So accessibility, safety, comfort, more amenities was one of the goals. Support the mission, so adding creative space for our musicians, choruses for education, more versatility in the space, and create a sense of community. If you are playing a concert on a stage at Power Hall right now, you cannot set up a reception in the lobby for a corporate sponsor. You can't have the chorus in the house warming up or rehearsing. You cannot have multiple music events happening at once. And it's not a very nimble space, and it's not a accessible space. So navigating Power Hall is quite difficult. If you're taller than most, leg room is insufficient, and seats are not always comfortable, and there's no ADA access. The seats are original to 1967. That's 56 years, 55 years. Apparently, we are taller, larger, bigger. Sadly, we're bigger. So all the seats today are manufactured like 2 inches wider and deeper. So this is a project. So creating this center for music. The blue is the existing Power Hall, and the tower was existing in the 1920s when it was built. The addition of the new lobby and visitor services is to plan for more restrooms and more space for visitors to have access to a bar, to a drink, to a coffee, and use a restroom. Until renovation, you had to make a choice between either going to the restroom or serving a drink to your date. So no longer you will have the opportunity to do both. And if you have guests or you're introducing friends to the symphony, you'll have the luxury of having the time to network and connect and spend time with your guests instead of running around trying to get to the bathroom. There's no backstage right now, which is the craziest. Well, Dwayne, I mean, you know, how often have you gone across the street to warm up or prepare for a concert? Which, by the way, the board in that 1968, when they opened Power Hall, recognized, it's in the minutes, that the space was insufficient for artists. We have no space for storing the 3 Steinway pianos. We had no space to store harp, percussion, timpani. We have the hardest working stage crew in the country because they spend their time moving things around and up and down. We have no loading dock, no loading area. So I have young women getting shipments of sodas and coffee and heavy stuff that is being shipped on the ground floor, and they have to lift things. You know, little details like this, you don't realize how inefficient the space is. The Education and Learning Center was conceived as a space, of course, for learning and education for everyone, not just kids, but it's going to be a versatile space where the choruses will rehearse, youth orchestra, where we'll do lecture, reading of music, chamber music, events. It will be a very popular space, and I know we're gonna have massive scheduling issues with. I see it coming for years ahead, but it will be one of the great spaces, and it connects the front of house and the back of house. So let me show you a few details. So expansion, of course, lobby, backstage, and renovation, which inside what we're doing right now is where we removed all the seats. We're going to slightly adjust the slope of the balcony. Who has sat upstairs at Power Hall? Yeah. So you know how steep it is when you go up? I always feel like a goat go up. It's very, very steep, and I'm so afraid anyone might fall. So we're going to add railing, just gently adjust the slope. Downstairs, we're going to create more rows, more leg room upstairs. We're going to change the lighting. We're going to preserve the acoustics. The stage floor was at the end of its life. I did not know this last year. I was told by the architects that the stage floor had about 2 years to live. I said, how sad. But the stage floor is very, very important for the acoustics. So I had engineers look exactly at how this floor was put together in 1967. And lastly, ADA compliance. So instead of parking all of our friends who come in wheelchair or walkers behind like cattle, right? We park there's going to be 25 ADA seating throughout the hall. So if you come in a wheelchair, you'll have access to a great seat, and you'll be able to choose wherever you want to sit. This is how it's going to look like from so this is Grandel. So if you go down, you know this is facing Powell Hall. We chose brick, and the color and the shade of the brick will mimic some of the stone of the existing building. I had many, many brick demonstrations and workshop. I know more about brick than you think I know, but we actually selected the manufacturers based here in St. Louis. So a lot of the contractors, manufacturers, providers of material are based here. Some of the glass comes from Mexico because we had no choice, but the idea was to preserve Powell Hall. Everything you love about it will remain. Everything you love about it inside will remain. And the expansion is, think of a wrap around this Powell Hall. And I don't know if you can see, but let's see if there's another. So this expansion, this lobby, it's sloped. So I have people cut the brick. There's a shape to the brick. I don't know whose idea was this, but now 4 years later, because we probably picked this design 4 years ago, I thought, Anyway, it's going to be a work of art. So you'll see the arches. So I told the architects, don't design an arch. I don't want to see an arch. Well, look, looks like an arch. But they said to me, it's not an arch. It's mimicking the shape of sound. I told them about the rivers in our estate, but they said it's also shaped around the sound, the waves, and also the proscenium of the stage. To me, it looks like an arch, but this is the drop-off of Sam Shepard. So if you're facing the building, you're going to have an entrance on every side of the building. So this is something I wanted the architect to do. As I said, I don't want one grand entrance off of Grand. I want an entrance on every side of the building, because the reality is you park in every corners of that neighborhood and you enter from different places. So I want this to be convenient for you. So there's an entrance in the back. So that entrance there leads you to the box office. There's going to be an entrance on the side where you see the car. There's going to be the stage entrance there. And on the other side, on Del Mar, we have an official entrance on the Del Mar that's going to be beautiful. So this is going to be the back entrance if you park in the back. The windows you see there are windows to the Education and Learning Center, where we're probably going to have pre-concert lectures. So you see it there. Then the parking in the back. Then this is the backstage. So this is a space of musicians. The tower on the top, which I find extraordinarily ugly. And I asked the city if we can paint it. I said, can we have a garden? Can we paint it, I don't know, green, something? And they said, no. It's historical. You can't touch it. So I just hope you're not going to see too much of that back. So this is going to be the stage entrance, loading dock to the right. This is a Del Mar entrance. So the city asked us to make the sidewalk much wider. We're going to do bus drop-off there, shuttles, if you come from various places on the shuttle. The entrance is further up there. Where you see the picture there used to be a hat shop there in the 20s. We found amazing things there. Anyway, there's going to be an entrance there. So if you're being picked up or dropped off, there's going to be an awning. And when you come into that space, there's a nice vestibule where you can sit. You see it a little bit there. And if you're familiar with Powell Hall, you're going to enter. If you remember, there was an SVA boutique to the left. You enter right at that level. And this is going to take you there. The ladies' rooms are over there, right at level. So you don't need to navigate steps. And it will take you into the Powell Hall. And Powell Hall, the way you know it, this is not going to change. We're repainting, replacing carpet, same red. I lost that battle. I didn't want red carpet, and I was in the minority. But everything, the velvet is original to the construction of the building in '67, well, to the concert hall. And it's really hard to find people who can do the manual work of replacing the velvet, so it's a lost art. The only difference is the bars that you see there were added over the years. They will be removed, so we're going to have more space. If you look here, more space to navigate, and we'll have small tables we can add or remove as needed. But the big change is the current entrance, which is there where the box office is, will become a bistro. So this is where you're going to be able to come in. We're going to have great wine, great coffee, great tea, great water, great everything, with finger food, cold food for the most part, because we can't run a restaurant. But you'll have the ability to eat a lighter meal before the concert. So you see, this is currently the entrance of Powell Hall. Will become that bistro with boutique. The door you see there, so all the doors, everything will remain original, but that door you see there will take you to a terrace on the side. So there's going to be a large plaza in front of the other non-arch entrance. The idea is we want to activate the outside. Snohetta, the architect... Yes, Snohetta, the architect, has a really great landscaping team, and they design green space all around. And so the beauty, there's going to be a garden in the back. It looks like a jungle in the pictures. It takes a long time for gardens to mature, but those of you who are in gardening can get the idea. It's not going to look like this the day it opens, but it will grow to become this. So green space will become very, very important. My team is really worried about maintenance and cleanup and birds, and with nature comes everything else. So this is the slice. So imagine a cake. I just sliced the cake so you can see the lobby expansion. So Power Hall is to your left. If you're sitting in the hall watching the orchestra on stage, listening to the orchestra, you don't see that part. It's going to be to your right, and you're going to have a door that separates the concert hall from this. And what this is every single level of the concert hall will connect to a new platform of various size and shape. But if you're sitting in your seat and you go right, you'll have access to restrooms right there and concession. So you'll be able to get coffee, water, go to the restroom, and just enjoy. And it's going to be a large platform where you can basically, see people and connect and so on and so forth. Downstairs is the box office, and the use of wood is a warming element, also for acoustical purposes. I want you to know it's not going to look that white, because there's going to be art signage. This is a little bit of a kind of sterile kind of look, but it's not going to be that white. And soon I will have sessions to pick the white among 100 colors of white. So if you have any opinion, because Power Hall is very yellow. It's shocking how yellow it is compared. And the hall, the paint of the wall was the color of Goodman's dining room in the Central West End. And they replicated that exact color, but there's a lot of yellow in it. So this is what you're gonna see from the lobby expansion, the idea of the window. I know we need to wrap up. Window and look outside. There's gonna be lots of benches, and so we're gonna do music outside, but with other collaborators, and we may have a jazz group outside when you come to a concert or after an event, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So this shows you a bit that Guggenheim circled a staircase, which is very high, and there's going to be an elevator just behind, so have no worries. This is the right side of the building, so the left side of the building will not change. So if you're able to usually navigate the grand staircase at Power Hall, that will stay. This is just the right side. And the Met Bar is right behind that first level there. And again, the Met Bar, which is beautiful, will stay exactly the same. So this is a connector to Power Hall. We're going to add space for customer service and so on and so forth. Let me just go ahead quickly so you can see other components. A lot of this is on the website, by the way, so you can go back, box office. Again, the very dramatic staircase, and I have vertigo, so I don't know how I'm going to feel when I go up those stairs, but this is the bar downstairs, and we are talking to several curators in town about art that will go there. And hopefully over time we could have rotating art. So every platform is going to have a bar like this, and then it's plenty of space for people to gather and connect. I'm going to take you to Donor Lounge, where this is facing east, so it's going to be a beautiful color. There you go. So we're going to skip ahead because I want to show you inside the hall and the musician space. By the way, in the slides, the gentleman who designed this is about 26 years old, and all the furniture they had picked was so low that when I tried the chairs, I said, we're not going to be able to get up. But at 26, he just didn't realize that there's some realities with life that you need to make sure we can get up. So we kind of revisited. So this is the Education and Learning Center. This is just a picture to show you how an orchestra, it's not a very good image, but this is where we're going to do a lot of educational activities, distance learning. Backstage is going to be a media suite where we can do broadcast, live recording, taping, and audiovisual. And we anticipate using the hall for other parties who want to do audiovisual productions. This is a musician's lounge, 90 musicians who have nowhere to go because we have no backstage, so they'll have their lounge, music library, so dressing rooms. We have 3 Steinway pianos. Those are very, very expensive instruments. We're going to have a keyboard room backstage, a harp room, timpani, percussion, practice rooms. So we're turning a lot of the empty space around the stage into 12 practice rooms, which can also be used by the chorus. Oftentimes choruses have sectionals, and these practice rooms are of different sizes. So again, for musicians, large instrument storage backstage for basses, contrabassoon, tuba, percussion room, which again, it's going to be a life changer. Women have no dressing room, so for them it's going to be also able to change at work and just leave their purse in their locker. This is the media suite I was mentioning about. Music library. Right now, the music library is in the basement on the other side of the stage. When there are emergency, the library is the engine of the orchestra. We have a lot of music. We have extraordinary scores, but the orchestra needs to get their music. That's the first thing they get. Same with the chorus, months and weeks in advance. So just looking inside, the hall is going to look the same. It's not going to be different. The only difference is we're adding, if you look downstairs, we're adding a large row. You'll be able to go from one side to another. We are also adding leg room in the back and killing some of the seats in the back that are not great acoustically. And upstairs, we're affecting the slopes and adding a lot of railing and a lot of places where you can actually hold on to rails. So you see here, but otherwise, the look of the hall, this is a very gentle connector to the expansion. So when you're in the concert hall, you're not going to see the new expansion. This is a cry room. The architects found an extra space as they were closing in on the walls behind the house, and we said, what a great idea. We can go hide. Or if you have a coughing fit, you can go hide. Or if you have a screaming child, you can also go hide there. So that's it. So this is just to show you from the time. So I was hired in 2015, and I told the board at the time, you have to fix Power Hall because it's your future and it's an asset. We're one of very few major orchestras that owns its hall. You would not believe how extraordinary an asset this hall is. It's one of the finest concert halls in the country, but we own it, which not many orchestras have that privilege. By owning it, we control how we use it, how much revenue we generate from it, because we'll have weddings, rentals. There's all kinds of people who will want to use the space. But from the time that we formed the task force to start the work to the time it will be completed, it's about 10 years. And the board at the time said, oh, we don't think we can do this. We can't afford that. I said, well, you might not afford it now, but in 10 years from now, this is a project that will impact future generations. You'll be glad you do it. There's never a good time. So I'm really glad they had the courage to say, yes, let's do it. This is just a short list. There's a lot more consultants and subcontractors who work on this project, but I just want you to know there was a very big emphasis on minority business. A lot of businesses we hired are women-led or led by other minorities, but it's mostly St. Louis-based or Midwest, so we really wanted to make sure we were creating jobs with this project. So I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, yes, it is. Thank you. Any questions?